Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast, brought to you by Roadmap. I want to be here. Let me do that again. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from Cruise Control, brought to you by Roadmap. Today I'm going to be here with my good friend Justin Roethlinghofer, and I'm super excited to have him here as part of our Visionary series. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that Detailer's Roadmap, we do websites and SEO. So if you're looking to take that business to the next level and utilize internet marketing and all that comes along with it, don't forget to go to detailersroadmap.com, hit that little book a demo button at the top, and we'll help you out. We'll walk you through and get you moving. So, hey, Justin, I'm going to give you his little quick bio. Author, speaker, and founder of Own It, a health and coaching company that aims to reclaim the health by empowering high performers to take ownership of their health so that they can thrive in all areas of life. He recently released a new book, The Power of Ownership, which is available everywhere. Justin and I have gotten to know each other really well over the last few months. We were having an awesome conversation before we even started this, so I want to bring it back around to that. And but Justin's one of these guys that I really look up to, and one of the reasons I asked him to do the Visionary series with us, because he's not only just a great man, I really respect him as a man, but he's also someone that has built a business, built a team with the full intention of, seeking out to help others and really build up the health of a nation, of a world, utilizing what he's built. So there's this altruistic background to everything he does. That was part of our conversation before we started. But also, he's in business, right? And so that's, to me, the perfect meld of building a great business, but also serving and having that. So all that to say, Justin's here. I appreciate you being here, and thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's awesome to be here, Kevin. And I'm just super excited to see where the conversation goes, because every time you and I get together, there's always something that's deep. We're not surface level people. And I think the deeper we go, the harder we excavate, the greater that we're able to step into what it is that we were called to and the potential in which we were created for.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, the big thing I always ask with guests on this show is we talk about this superhero backstory. So like all of us have this backstory, and feel free. And I've heard your backstory before, but I love it. I love the backstory, first of all. But I'd love for you to kind of just give us a little background about who you are, how you got here, specifically some of the business stuff that you've built. I know you've got a team of 40 plus now. And, that's the thing I love talking about entrepreneurs that have said, it's not like, hey, my grandfather had this business, he handed it over to me, and now I'm running it. And usually that story ends up with running it into the ground as the last part of that. But these are men and women that have built these businesses kind of out of their own necessity and out of something that really drove them. So I'd love to hear that backstory.
Yeah. So for me, I came again from a blue collar, hardworking family. And even this, to be honest with you, I only learned this about 2 or 3 years ago. But my grandfather came over from Germany, and he built 3 multi-million-dollar companies, and he ran each and every one of them into the ground. He became a millionaire and trusted the wrong people, and didn't know enough about business, didn't know what he didn't know, and lost it all 3 times. And when he passed away at 64. When he passed away, he left my dad with all the debt. Oh. And my father, being the hardworking, good man, provider that he was, he never told anybody, and he just continued to work. He worked his way up to an executive in an insurance company, and paid all the debts, looked after he became the man for his mom. He became the man for our family. He became the man for his brother. He became the man for everything. And for a long time growing up, I never really understood why he didn't step out from the corporate world, but rather just because he had so many ideas, so many side hustles that he was constantly doing that he loved, like from detailing cars to he flips cars on a regular basis. He would go and help his friends who had car washes, in the sense of like actual legit car wash businesses, and he would go and just hang out with them and have fun, and like he'd run tournaments for golf charity tournaments. Like he would do all these things and have his hands in all these things, and he was so entrepreneurial in nature and creative, but he never left to go and build a business, but stayed in the corporate world. And a couple of years ago, I learned of everything that was put on his plate, everything that he was under. And it was simply so that he could know that he had a way to provide for his family and a way to continue to get everything else looked after. And so it really changed my mindset in terms of the home I grew up in and the type of home I grew up in, which was just full of love. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is the home that I grew up in. And at 13 years old, I was a hockey player. My dad looked at me, I was playing with 15, 16-year-olds, and he said, "Son, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will get you paid." And that was just this quote that has stuck with me forever. Is how do I become the most consistent version of me? How do I sit into this sense of what I know I need to do in order to step into what it is that I've been called to? And the only way I can do that, the only way I can shape myself in a different way, is by becoming somebody better. The tactics are great. The habits are great. But who do I need to become in order to embody those? Because who we are will never surpass our potential. And so if we see ourselves as something, the potential that we have will never be realized if we only ever see ourselves as less than. And the way in which we embody confidence in order to step into something new is to create undeniable evidence that we are who we say we are. And so who that version or who that vision of you is becomes a very important thing. And so I say all that to say that I came down to the States on a hockey scholarship. I got 2 undergraduate degrees. I did my master's degree. I did my postgraduate doctoral work. I stepped into the NHL as the youngest strength and performance director in the league, was between there and the NCAA for just over 12 years before I stepped away in 2021, started a company called Own It, with the mission to redeem the health of the world and take the incidence of chronic illness from leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, from the leading cause of death at 71%, down to less than 50% by the year 2030. And so we do that by educating, empowering, and equipping people to take ownership of their health in a very personalized way. And that's been our mission ever since. And so we've just been so blessed with the growth and expansion of our business, the growth and expansion of our team, and even more importantly, the growth and expansion of our impact, with a international reach now between Canada, the US, and parts of Europe. And so it's been really, really exciting. And we know that we're just scratching the surface and really getting into a exciting place where over the course of just time, we will see the impact and the redemption of the health of the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's the redemption aspect of it, I think, is something that drives that. And I was thinking about this morning about how you've kind of the way that you approach business and sales. And you and I, I'm actually going to take advantage. Michelle and I, my wife, are taking advantage of some of your offerings. And I'd love for you to explain the way you do things. Cause you and I, excuse me, you and I actually kind of, run in this world, right? The health and fitness, and, we work out every day. You were talking about your workout this morning, and, but a lot of the listeners probably don't really live in this world. And I don't think they really necessarily understand, kind of how it all works. And so if you can just explain what Own It does, because I want to give some context here. And then we'll talk about business. And then I do want to talk about how those all tie together.
So when we think about our health, I think about our health in a very different way than the world thinks about it. I don't think about it in terms of muscles and abs. I think about it in terms of, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? How are you operating on a day-to-day basis? What are your habit structures on a day-to-day basis? Because we have to realize we don't rise to the level of our desires. We fall to the level of our systems. Everybody out there has a desire as a small business owner to hit $1 million, to have a big impact, to provide for their families. Everybody has that same desire. It's not a desire issue. It's a capacity issue. You don't have the capacity to handle the day-to-day needs, the day-to-day jobs, the day-to-day stressors, because you don't have the systems. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because that's not what you were made for. It's not because that's not what you're called for. It's not because you're doing the wrong things. It's simply because you don't have the capacity. And you fail to have the capacity because you don't have intentional and consistent behaviors that have been done over the course of time that help to close the gap between your potential and your reality. And so, having been somebody who lived in that space of having a large gap between potential and reality, I know firsthand what it feels like every single day to wake up and not feel adequate, not feel good enough, not feel like you're winning, not feel like you're moving forward, not feel like you're in a place where you can truly serve people in the way that you were called to. And that caused for me the depression, the anxiety, the headaches, all of these health factors that pathologically we would think something was broken inside of us, when in fact nothing's actually broken. It comes into actually just living differently and figuring out what that looks like, because we have to realize the stepping stones to chronic illness. It's chronic stress, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. The body doesn't know the difference between these forms of stress. So chronic stress creates chronic deficiencies. Chronic deficiencies creates chronic symptoms. Chronic symptoms creates chronic illness. And so many of us go through this space without having any type of awareness as to what our stressors are, what our deficiencies are, what our symptoms are. And we just live life by default with our head in the sand. And when all of a sudden we pick it up, we've got diabetes. We're 80 pounds overweight. We're suffering a heart attack or a stroke at 35, 40 years old. We are in a great deal of depression or anxiety or insomnia, can't sleep, you name it. These are the things that come by living a life by default and not having the awareness around it. And so the way that Own It works is we really drive 3 different parameters. Number 1 is awareness. How do we establish awareness of that pattern I just talked to you about? And we use specifically data, not feelings, emotions, or opinions, but data that comes from wearable devices, heart rate variability, sleep quality specifically, and then looking at testing, DNA, epigenetic, and cellular micronutrient dysfunction testing. Off of this, we then establish a who. So a lot of people would say, okay, I've got the awareness. Now what do I do? It's not about tactics, because if it was just about tactics, you would have done them already. And so we have to become somebody. Who do we have to become that embodies the habits and behaviors that are going to get us to where we want to go? Because the habits, behaviors, and lifestyle that you have today are simply a vote for who you want to become tomorrow. And without the awareness, we don't know who we need to become. We don't know who we want to be. And so we create awareness that helps you become somebody new. We work on that with you. We help guide you, establish that with you. And then we create a system that is based around certain habits, certain behaviors, based around your needs, your lifestyle, your desires, the season of life you're in, your priorities, so that we can create something that's sustainable for you, that now allows you to live differently over the course of time, that realizes a completely different outcome. And so again, we're using data to validate, are we moving in the right direction or not? Because the data we got at the beginning is the same data we look at throughout the entire process, and it helps validate the direction we're going, or it helps us to redirect in a different way. And seeing that the cellular deficiencies are dropping, seeing that our HRV is increasing, seeing that our capacity is getting better, seeing that our sleep performance is getting better. Man, these are all positive things that we want to continue to keep going, knowing that, hey, the changes you're making are working. The changes you're making are positive. So it gives you this inspiration, motivation, and neurological pathway to validate that, hey, we're in the right place. We're just we're just on the road for the journey, and let's keep going.
Well, well, I was just thinking while you were talking about myself, right? Like I get a hard time with the guys that I'm around, in this space, because it's like, hey, because I'm like, you and I'm going to go to an event with you in about a month. And I realize that going to this event, like I'll be one of the smaller guys there and less fit, because it's a bunch of guys that will be fit, majority. And so in this particular industry, I tend to be an outlier in terms, I'm not like super fit or anything like that, but I tend to be a guy that is noticeably, like takes care of himself. But what's interesting that I found is after we started doing the wearable devices and all that, I'm like, holy crap, I'm not as healthy as I thought I was. Right. Like, and that was something, and, and so I've got a lot of work to do. And the data was funny because Michelle and I are doing these wearables, and she's like, well, what was your number, today? What's your HRV? And I'm like, damn it, it was this. And she's like, well, mine's this, and it was like 6 or 7 points higher. She sleeps better than I do, and all these different factors. But I start to realize that, even though I work my ass off in the gym and, I'm getting leaner and all this stuff, that's not the whole picture. So what I do want to contrast that is, there may be a lot of people that are listening to this that are McDonald's 5 days a week. They don't sleep because they're trying to make payroll, and they don't, they really don't feel well at all. And so how does that factor in? And let's say those people are not really ready necessarily to go to all the cellular testing and the wearable device. The wearable device is kind of easy, so you can talk about that. How do they take that data, and how do they make small changes in order to improve their overall level of health and fitness?
So again, it all comes back, Kevin, to the level of awareness. And the downside with the wearable devices is they've really started just to confuse people more so than actually help and empower, which is why we started with our video course. Like, you can go and grab our video course that literally helps guide you and walk you through what you're looking at, to empower you to look at understanding what your body's saying. There's a quote out there that says, communication is the hard work of leadership. And the downside of this is that we've failed to understand the language of our body. We've failed to communicate with our greatest asset, which is ourselves. When you realize that in your business, you are the greatest asset, that's when you start to win, because you realize that you have to start to live differently. And so if if communication is the hard work of leadership, you've invested in how to communicate better with your team. You've invested with how to communicate better with your clients, with your employees, with your executive staff. You've done the hard work. Maybe you've grabbed Patrick Lencioni's work. Maybe you've grabbed John Gordon's work, John Maxwell's work. Maybe you've looked at any of the thousands of books or courses that are out there for how to communicate and be a better leader. But you've failed to learn how to communicate with the most important asset that you have, which is your body. And so when you start to realize that, you start to go, man, maybe I do have to learn a new language. Maybe I do have to understand this language. And that's what we help you do, especially through the video course, or even Emergence, like you're going to go through, which is, again, this group-led program that is specific for small business owners and entrepreneurs, that is helping them understand, okay, what am I actually experiencing? What am I going through? What are the stressors that I'm under? Not that we need to eliminate stressors, but rather how can we garner greater capacity to handle it better, to be able to have some quantifiable data that guides us in a better direction as to how can I make a better decision.
Yeah, because I want to be, in the industry for myself, like I want to be a positive influence to say, hey, this is, taking care of yourself, right? Because a lot of times, and I think this is part of your mission and part of the problem with Western culture, right? Like if you just work harder, if you just stay up later, there's this in the detailing industry in particular, there's this thing where you'll get a post of someone taking a picture of their watch and it says 2 a.m, right? And there's this like that hustle culture and all that, to where there's like this badge of honor. First of all, I always say, if you're doing a car at 2 a.m, then there's something broken with your business. You need to fix that. But there's this hustle culture and something to where we're rewarding ourselves for overworking and abandoning our families and, and these kind of things. And granted, there are times when you have projects that you have to just put the extra work in. But if this is a way of life. So what I'm trying to do is I want to and I explain to people, like, what impact is poor health having that people aren't necessarily recognizing? Like, what is this doing? Because we can talk about, like, we've had these series where we talk about how to improve your revenue, how to sell more, how to improve your efficiency, all of these things. But like, it seems like if you're going to drop dead or have a heart attack or feel like crap, even back to the very nature of it, if you feel like crap while you're trying to run your company, how are those things impacting people in a way, and their business and bottom line in a way that they probably don't even realize?
Well, I'll even come back to a little bit of like the mentality that you talked about, because I don't like to be seen as like the sage from the stage. I like to be seen as somebody that somebody can relate to. And it's so easy just to say, you need to focus on your health. You need to back off and do these things. Well, the reason that this is such a big part of my mission is I was the guy that ran myself into the ground and saw that as the badge of honor. I was the guy that stayed up until 2 a.m. and got up at 6 a.m. and was the first to, and this is obviously speaking back to when I was in the NHL and the health and performance director. And I was the guy that after games would watch video back and align the data with the guy so that I could actually create individualization and go to bed at 2 a.m, exhausted, delirious, waking up at 6 a.m. so that I was the first to the rink in the morning, so that I would be seen as the first guy there. He's the hardest worker. He's all the way, just simply to validate myself as that I'm working hard. Because, and it wasn't until I actually did the real work. And this is what I talk about in becoming like the who. For so long, I would ask people like, how do I get more energy? How do I do more things? Well, bro, when you're staying up until 2 a.m, when you're traveling 150 days a year and you're getting up at 6 a.m. and you're working all day long and continuing to pour into people, you're not going to have energy. It's not like, how do we do this? It's not how do we do this? It's you're asking the wrong question. It's who do you have to become? Because Kevin, every single day I would wake up exhausted. Every single day I would wake up frustrated. Every day at 33 years old, I would roll out of bed feeling like I just got hit by a semi truck. And I didn't know how to get out of this. And I still remember I got to the rink and our head coach came up to me and said, Justin, I need you to like stop being first to the rink. Like, I need you to come in at like 8 or 9 for a couple days. And I said, no, I'm good. And he said, that's the thing. You're not good. You don't realize that the work you're giving me is actually not the work that I need. And that hit me. It stung me. It actually pissed me off because I said, I'm working so hard for you, but yet it's not good enough. And it, again, goes back to who I needed to become. It was my ego saying, no, my work is like, validate me, tell me I'm good enough. Tell me that you're happy with what I'm doing. When in actuality, my work was below what my potential was because I was trying to do everything and be everything to everyone. And it wasn't until I was able to know that me just being me is worth it, that me, the asset, is important, that me, the asset, is loved, that me, the asset, is good enough and worth pouring into, worth investing in, and that me being exhausted was not the sign of hard work. Me being exhausted was not the sign that I was going the right direction. Mm-hmm. That being a small business owner, being an entrepreneur, being exhausted day in and day out is not the sign that you're doing the right things, is not the sign that you're on the right track, is not the sign that you're doing everything that you have to in order to succeed. It's actually a symptom and a sign that something's not quite right. And so it wasn't until I realized that and started to see what I didn't know, that that's when everything started to change. There was also some work that I did with my therapist where I sat down and she said something to me that just hit. And she said, "What if everything didn't have to be so hard?"
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "What if everything didn't have to be so hard? What if every workout didn't have to be so hard? What if every business transaction didn't have to be so hard? What if getting all of those clients didn't have to be so hard? What if your relationship with your wife didn't have to be so hard? What if just living and waking up every morning didn't have to be so hard?" And it hit me all of a sudden that I was making everything hard and choosing to make everything hard because that was what was validating me, that I was doing the right thing. And the moment that I switched that mindset, the moment that I switched to just being on purpose, being where God asked me to be, being obedient to what I knew that I needed to do, focusing on the habits, the behaviors that were going to give me greater capacity, things started to happen with ease. That doesn't mean they happened easily. It means they happened with ease. My efforts went further. It wasn't like I was pushing a boulder uphill anymore. It's like I was just on the journey, hitting checkpoints along the way because it was inevitable that what I was desiring was going to happen now that I was living in alignment and my order was correct. Everything that I was doing before was out of order. It was about me. It was about my ego. It was about validating my work. It was about making sure that everything that I was doing was, I would say it was for the greater purpose of everybody else. But in the actuality, if I got true and to the under nuggets of what was really in my heart, it was like, how can I be the guy? How can I be the man? How can I be validated? How can I show that I'm successful? But when my order got right, back to God first, my health second, my family third, and ultimately leading with my business fourth, everything that I had been chasing, energy, success, financial freedom, great leadership teams, impact, all the things that I had been chasing turned around and started chasing after me. But it requires you getting real with yourself and being able to understand that what you're doing has to be different than the way the world tells you.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? We're told as small business owners that you have to put the work in, you can't sleep, all of those things. And, I'm thinking while you're talking, it's like, but Justin, you run this huge company with this huge team. Surely you sleep like 4 hours a night and all this stuff is just talk, right? And I know that's not true because you sleep, 7.5, 8 hours a night, but it's good quality sleep, which I know you track. And it's like, and I mean, just like this morning, we're on a call. You and I were on a call last night, and you're like, "Hey, can we?" I said, "Can we get this thing rescheduled because we had some scheduling issues?" And you're like, "How about tomorrow morning?" And so having that, that's not common for someone running a company of your size to be able to give of his time. And I really appreciate you giving this time to me, but to give of his time the next morning. Right. And I'm not saying that you don't have a lot to do because you do. But what I'm saying is that you have this freedom that you've created through that attitude adjustment and through that methodology, basically life methodology that I think others can learn from. Right. This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS.
I say 80% is your 100%. What I mean by that is if you look at my calendar on any given day, I have 20% flex time. If I pack my day 100% full, when life happens, I have no margin. I have no room. This morning, I came down and I wanted to go for an extra 30-minute walk with my dog. I wouldn't have had that freedom.
Yeah.
My wife and I went for an extra 30 minutes. We talked, we had a great conversation, connected. It was amazing. When's the last time somebody listening to this is like had an extra 30 minutes to go for a really intentional walk to connect with your spouse on a Tuesday morning?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else. I'm not saying I've got it perfectly dialed in. But my level of intentionality, my level of focus, my level of desire to live differently, to live a life by design, to put it together, that's created awareness, that's created this person, this man to become somebody new. That's what I want to help do for other people. That's what we do for other people, is we give them margin back. We help them understand how to live life differently, how to focus and build this life that allows them to have margin, allows them to have space, allows them to live energetically, to sleep well. Because again, when I look at my days, when I say priority, I do not mean time spent. So when I tell you about my priorities, God is first. Nothing takes the place of Sunday morning church. Nothing takes the place of my Bible time in the morning. Nothing takes the place of my breath work and prayer time before I reestablish myself with my family before dinner at night. Nothing takes the place of that. But if I'm honest, it takes probably 15 minutes a day. That goes on my calendar first. Then nothing takes the place of my morning workouts. Nothing takes the place of my afternoon saunas. Nothing takes the place of my cold plunge before nighttime or before bedtime. Nothing takes the place of those. Those are on my calendar. Then go to my wife. Nothing takes the place of Thursday night date nights. Nothing takes the place of having an intimate dinner together, sitting down, having conversation 5 nights a week. Nothing takes the place of 10 intentional hugs throughout the day. I make sure that those happen. Then I go to my family. Nothing takes the place of my Monday morning calls with my dad. Nothing takes the place of my Friday morning calls with my mom. Nothing takes the place of my intentional time connecting with my sister, because my sister works for us. And then lastly, number 5, once I get everything on that calendar, everything on that list, everything there, there's more than enough time to work 12, sometimes 14-hour days that are energized, that are focused, that are full of intention. And to be honest with you, stress-free for a lot of these things, because I know that I'm just going through the process. I'm in the journey. And I think the other part that comes back to this, Kevin, is I've gotten to the top of so many mountains, from being the youngest strength coach in the NHL to living that life, to writing 5 books, to winning world championship triathlons and marathons and DECA games and CrossFit games. I've been to the tops of a lot of mountains. There's no fulfillment there. Where the fulfillment comes from is being in the quest, is being in the journey, is literally today, knowing that I've got 15 things to do, that I've got a bunch of calls that I'm going to get on, that I've got a bunch of people that I'm getting ready to serve. I've got a keynote this afternoon. I've got another keynote on Thursday. You're doing the work. You're in the journey. And what a better way to be in the journey than to be doing it energized, to be knowing that your body's able to handle it, that your body's ready to handle it, that you have prepared yourself. You've prepared the vessel to go and take on what the journey is going to require. You've prepared the vessel to have the capacity to do what it is that's going to be asked of you. You've got the capacity that is going to keep you mentally clear and focused so that you can come back day after day after day. Because here's the thing I need people to hear. If you're a small business owner and you're struggling today, if you're a small business owner and you don't know if you're going to keep the lights on tomorrow, if you're a small business owner and you're like, I just need to get food on the table, it is inevitable that you will win if you stay in it long enough. The only difference between the man that quits and the man that succeeds is that he tried one more time. And the thing about this is that your ability to try one more time is 100% correlated and dictated by the health of the vessel operating it. If you stay energized, if you stay mentally clear, if you stay focused, you can try as many times as you want. Because I'm on swing probably 195.
Yeah.
And I've still got the energy. I've still got the focus. I've still got this. And I know what it feels like not to. And the journey, the war that I'm in right now is no bigger, is no smaller than the war that I was in 5 years ago. The only difference is that I'm doing it with an able body, a strong mind, a spirit that is so connected and dialed into what my God-given calling is, and a rock bed of emotion that just can't, that's unshakable. And it's not because I'm better than you. It's not because I've got it figured out. It's not because I've got more skills, more tools, more assets than you. It's simply that I've chosen to become more intentional. I've chosen to seek out what I didn't know. And you have the power to make that choice today.
Man, it's so inspiring. Like that whole thing, right? We talk about that this life is supposed to be fun and rewarding. And the only way to do that is by going through what you just said. And so I hope everybody listening takes something from this to know that we have people that have success in all areas, right? Like it's not about just 7 figures and 8 figures and 6 figures and keeping the lights on, and which all that's important, but it's about this holistic thing that we're talking about. And honestly, I think that's a great place to wrap this up. I think that inspiration is something for me personally. Every time we talk, I get inspired and I learn more things, and I'm super excited to spend more time with you towards the end of this month. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I'd love for you to kind of let us know about Power of Ownership, which is the book, and kind of how they can find out more information from you and just kind of, get this journey started. If they're like, man, I'm super inspired, I don't even really know where to begin. Who do I talk to? How does that work?
Yeah. So the Power of Ownership book can be found literally at thepowerofownershipbook.com, or just look up The Power of Ownership on Amazon. It's there. We've just been so blessed with the response of this book in the field. I think as of today, it's number 71 in the world of all books sold. It was surpassing
Awesome.
Atomic Habits by James Clear and Peter Attia's Outlive, and Who Not How, which I think is a book that a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs should read if they haven't read it yet. But just all my mentors, the people that have just kind of showed me the way, it's right in there. So I'm just so blessed by that. And just hearing a lot of the feedback from people who have read it, have just said it blessed them in a major way. So I really encourage you to get a copy of that and lean in. But then also there's this concept of, because even today, Kevin, we could have dove into the tactics. We could have dove into the systems. We could have dove into, okay, how do you get the best sleep possible? How do you create an unshakable mindset? How do you create the optimal work and sleep environment? How do you create the best hydration, nutrition, and exercise plan? Like, we could have done all these tactics, but the real heart of it is we can't get to the tactics until you gain awareness and become somebody who wants to embody these. And that's where the real work is. That's where the real transformation happens. Everything else is just an accessory tool that we can use to get us to the desired destination of what we're trying to accomplish. And so if that's you, if you're like, hey, you know what, you spoke to me, you moved me, this is something that I want for myself, this is something I know that I want to step into, I encourage you to go to ownitcoaching.com. And you can book a call with our team right there. And they'll be able to sit with you. They'll be able to really listen to you and understand where you're currently at. What's your chief complaint? It's often what we ask everybody when they come in is, what is your chief complaint? What is the recurring habit, the recurring pattern that you found that's holding you back from where you want to be? And when we get clear on what your chief complaint is, when we get clear on what the recurring pattern is, that's when we can help identify, okay, where do we start with you? What's our first step? What's the first thing we're going to do? Where are we going to go so we can step into something to realize something different? And we don't have to be on this path of chronic stress to chronic deficiencies to chronic symptoms that you consider normal, that all of a sudden 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, maybe 2 months from now, you wake up with some level of chronic illness where now you're being treated for something, because not everything is pathological. Actually, a lot of it stems just from deficiencies. And if the moment that we get clear on deficiencies at the cellular level, deficiencies in our habits, deficiencies in our lifestyle, deficiencies in our mindsets, deficiencies in what we don't know, that's where everything begins to change and we get to realize a life that's truly different.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm super excited that you came on board. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Couple weeks. That's it.
That's right. Awesome. Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.